Okay, now I've talked about it enough, and I know I've shown it before, but I'm going to try it again. All right, Nexiq Blue Mini, here you are. Yes, everything's backwards. I can't switch it once we're started. So there we are, Nexiq Blue Link. And it's called the Mini because that's the design of this little devil. Now here's your button that you push when you're trying to pair your phone to it. The little light blinks on the back to tell you it's operating, blinks to tell you, I think it's two different colors, amber, and then goes to green when they're connected. So when you're pairing it with your phone, you got to plug the thing into an actual truck unit, and then you can pair it to your phone. It only takes a minute or so. It's not bad at all. Now the other part too is I've got a bunch of apps on here. I don't know where to go because I haven't used it in a while. All right, first link. Right there. Now if I hit first link, let's see what happens. Oh, come up fast because I already did it. Well, let me wipe that out. Let's start over fresh. Where's our first link? It's probably up the row here a little further again. Come on, first link. Where'd you go? There you are. It's right next to it. There it goes. And that's what comes up. And you can hit scan when the two of you are connected. These two go together. This is called Nexiq Technologies On Command Upload Enabled. So what do you got? Faults, the first one, life and trip, vehicle specifications, which strangely enough is pretty good. The fancy word, as I've been saying, running data, parameters. And then finally it'll print a report. The report's pretty interesting. I don't know if I still have one in, let's see if I have it in archives. Oh, there it is. Vehicle report attached. Has a bunch of zeros, comes up as a PDF. Download. And it's giving me some hassles. Okay, it's saved. Oh, shoot. It won't open it up right here. Open with Drive, just once. There we go. And there's your report. There's a lot of information here. Most of it on off-road stuff will never be filled out. Now, let me see down here below life data, trip data, transmission, number 1, J1939. Okay, it wasn't minus 40 degrees. I'll try and get it up so it's larger. Whoops, you don't want to see that one. You want to see this one. Minus 13 degrees Fahrenheit. And see that up there? That's what told us we had a problem when it was 70 degrees outside. This is the report from that case. What's it say up above? Fault code 0, inactive, inactive, inactive. Now it has instrument cluster, management computer, transmission, and engine. And it showed 0 fault codes above. And I thought to myself, how is that possible? So I went down through the parameters. And what do we have? Mill status off, battery voltage was low, 11.8, 0 engine RPM, so it was off, throttle position not available, it's not running, clutch switch not available, engine intake temperature 57 degrees, so it wasn't, coolant temperature 78.8. So we had quite a few things here that we're able to read off of, not a lot, but enough. Ignition voltage, and you'll find out that engine intake air pressure 13.9 psi, meaning we're above sea level a little bit. And you know it doesn't read perfectly accurate. A lot of the stuff was NA, so there's only certain things that this would have pulled up, and it did. DPF differential pressure not available, DPF outlet temperature. So there's a lot of stuff on here that's not available. However, what we needed, there it was. Oil temperature in the transmission, minus 13 degrees Fahrenheit. And we have 2 other readings, 78 degrees in the coolant, 57 in the, where was that? Air intake. So the engine air intake is most likely this engine was running before we got there. However, there it is. This was in my archives I emailed to me. There's 2 pages of it. And even though most of it's useless, fuel used, 0.0 gallons. Hours, it gave me the hours, 762.85. Fuel used, 1109.4 gallons. You see, that stuff's worthless and irrelevant. Well, it is. But transmission, input shaft speed, 0 RPM. Output shaft speed, 0 RPM. So there's some sensors on there this thing can read. Now, why is a lot of this stuff not available? Because it's not there. The DPF stuff is all in there. All of it. But it's in here. It's not on the tractor. So that's why most of it's not available. Codes, yes, it should have picked up that fault code, but apparently that's not your standard SAE code. However, there you have it. You have a report you can email to yourself or to the customer, and you can get your data right directly off your doggone phone. It's designed for trucks, yes. Almost every, including diesel laptops, doesn't want to admit to you their ag programming is poor. It's not useless, but it's poor compared to trucks. So Nexiq Blue Mini, and you see the green collar here, that is the higher baud rate or updated, etc. system. This I bought years ago and was in the updated green collar. That's important because when you go to plug on the newer trucks, especially with the DPF systems and the exhaust, the EGRs, the DPF, and now the SCR systems, what does that all mean? EGR, exhaust gas recirculation. DPF, diesel particulate filter, which also has a catalytic converter in it. Okay, always remember that. You hear DPF, it's never just a DPF. There's always a catalytic converter in front of it, in every case that I've seen or heard of. Now, there's cases that the cat's there and not the DPF because the cat does enough and the engine itself does enough to take care of the problem to meet that specification. Tier 2, 3, 4, in this case, Tier 4I. Tier 3, what was it? Tier 1 was just basically smoke control. You had an aneroid on there, so if you didn't have enough turbo, and then if you're a naturally aspirated type of engine, you had a problem. They just turned the fuel back, and there you are. Have a nice day. But the others put a turbo on there. You wouldn't get any turbo until you had, or you didn't get any fuel until you could get enough turbo pressure to knock the block off, and then it would go and reduce smoke. Tier 2 was common rail, combustion chamber changes, etc. Tier 3 was your EGR systems. Tier 4 introduction is your catalyst and your DPF. Okay, then they had Tier 4 final, which was pretty much going to your SCR, which is DPF, diesel particulate filter, catalytic converter kind of thing, which is an open honeycomb. DPF is a closed cell system with alternating cells, so you can call it a honeycomb, but the idea is they're deadheaded. As you come out of the engine, it deadheads in the cell. However, it's porous porcelain. So this one's deadheaded, can't come back, and it goes through the pores between those tubes. Yeah, back pressure, anyone? But that's what it does. It measures the pressure on the outlet, pressure on the inlet, which is kind of stupid. You just need your pressure on the inlet. When it reaches a certain point, then they know it's plugged. But for some reason, they have to have both. So they've got it. Plus temperatures, because that carbon in there can cook when it's regenerating. You get your unit too hot. So they need to know that for safety reasons and to keep the cat from getting the catalyst and the DPF from getting overheated and breaking the honeycomb substrate. So next is the SCR for Tier 4 final, and Tier 5 is another step in those systems. But Tier 4 with the final with the SCR, which stands for Supplemental Catalyst Reduction. So when it comes out of the DPF, there's still too much NOx emissions. They don't like it. So they put a catalyst in there, and in between the DPF and the catalyst, they will have an injector to spray your urea. Urea turns to ammonia. Ammonia attaches to the NOx emissions and changes its state, goes through, and if you don't use up all the ammonia, there's a catch catalyst. They have a fancy term for it, but it's to convert the extra ammonia so that it doesn't stink like ammonia and doesn't throw ammonia in the atmosphere that's worse than the NOx emissions. True story. So that's what is in most why it's built for trucks, because trucks had a lot of that stuff years ago. What's the next one? Okay, just HD reader from Mac Tools. This is an old Bosch unit. This works very well, and the comical. This requires batteries in the back here. 4 AA's. There's 2 connectors. This is for your update. That was a selling point. They said, yes, it's functional. That's how they program it. But that's it. They don't need it after. They had no intention of updating this thing. And then there's your other plug that's pretty much serial specific for this. You get a 5-pin and a 9-pin, or is that a 6-pin? Whatever. You get the 6-pin and a 9-pin and to do your reads with. And the 9-pin is a green collar, the same as, or no, is not a green collar. I stand corrected. The newer unit is a green collar. The old one is a gray collar, the standard units. So that's why this thing's somewhat limited. But still, even with a gray collar, it's doing very well. Some of the newer units, I won't read it all because of that collar, the difference in the communications. However, for your older stuff, this thing's beautiful. And if I had money, I'd sell this off and go buy the other one in a heartbeat. It reads dollar for dollar, function for function. This thing and the available online information, or this thing, does almost as much, probably half to 3/4 of what the diesel laptop does for 1/10 the cost combined. But now I know that. I bought the ag programming. It's short, very short. They don't want you to know that. Sure, pay for their research and development. So that's why I figured I would cover this. When you pop this thing on, goes through its startup. Then you get to choose which one you're connecting. It doesn't have a backlight. 6-pin, 9-pin, select Deutsch cable. So you select which one, which I don't think I've ever selected 6-pin. Always 9-pin, then you hit enter, and then this comes up. What is this? Well, I need light and glasses. What do we have here? J1939 can, or you can select the older system, 1708-1587. What's the 1708-1587? Well, last I knew, I think the difference there is 1587 is the older, I think is the older one, but 1708 includes a lot of stuff on the truck that 1939 does. It's kind of like a one updated from the other, depending on who you talk to. And it'll show you the select the protocol. Enter 1939, connect truck to 9-pin. Yeah, I have to do this because it's not backlit. That's the one main problem with it. Connect your truck. It says not connected. What do we have? Then I can go into view faults. I do believe you can select memory to store. I never have. And it'll go through, what have we got in the list? View faults, summary screen, change connection, update recall scans, change connection. Okay, we're back. Let's select 6-pin and enter. Connect to truck, same thing. So you can hit read and it'll come up and say unable to read. Please verify the key is on. Clear that out. Unable to clear, so I can go to menu and adjust you can adjust your contrast. You can get your system info. Tool update, that's kind of funny, because I tried finding a way and go for the information to update. It won't allow you to do it. All that stuff's in there. And I've called years in the past and recently to see if there's an update for this. Nope. So if they would take this in on trade, I might consider the other one. But either way, this one on the older systems, tractors in particulars and such, off-road stuff, it does work quite well because of that. It matches their system. This one is the newer system, so I've got that as well, just in those 2 units for under $1,000. Diesel laptops does have more backup information. I can pull some, John Deere in particular, I can pull some schematics up on there that these aren't going to have. You have to go research it. Well, you get your service manual that online is relatively inexpensive. You can pick the things up for under $100 now as a PDF anymore. Yes, it takes more time. It's not right there in front of you. Cummins systems, if you go into theirs, if you can read the fault code, Cummins will give you the information either from their computer, from the Insight, or from the truck itself. It'll give you quite a bit of information. But that's the truck. Off-road stuff, they do about the same, but you're talking two separate software systems. The, what do they call it? Integrated IS series, like an ISX, ISQ, IS, whatever. That's integrated systems. That's on-road. Quantum systems, the QS, as in QSK, QSX, QSB, QSC, QSL, any of those, that's quantum series, and that's off-road industrial. So they have to separate the two basically for emissions. They have two separate emission standards. Trucks is tighter than the stuff that's off-road. What's the purpose of that? I don't know. Should be an engine, should be a horsepower. This is what we want. Done. Unless you're in emergency services, there should be absolutely no emission standards on any emergency services vehicle anywhere. Public transportation, crank them up, but they don't. Public transportation is exempt. Still, it's pretty sad. Anyway, time for me to go. I figured I would cover that with you. And my dog is telling me, Sid here is telling me it's time to let him out. You folks have a good day, and just remember, there are always alternatives that are far less expensive than $7,000 to $10,000. Then you can use them at home, and you'll say, yeah, but what if it doesn't? That's right. The Nexiq Blue Mini may not work for what your application is. But what are you out? You're out a couple of $100. That's it. The app is free. And when it does work, like I saw there, maybe it doesn't give you everything you want for the information, but it might give you in the parameters section your data. That's what it did for us. And putting the two together, that was super. Just something to consider. You can go to Diesel Laptops and buy that stuff, but now at this point, Matco has a beautiful unit. Snap-on always has a decent unit if you learn how to use it. And Mac, all of them have units. Matco and Mac went with Bosch, and they keep saying how horrible Bosch is, and then I'm using an old Bosch unit that shouldn't work as well as it does, and do you get my drift? So the tool truck shows up, you can get a better deal than going elsewhere. Time to go. You folks be good.